So much of our experience is unconscious, the past informing the way we perceive, express, relate, and create. Our task is to illuminate all the ways the past has decontextualized into the present, set a compassionate boundary, and discover a new way forward. Peace and power is the goal. Welcome to Decontextualized. I'm Natalia Rachel. Today's episode is called Inside the Life of Influencers. I'll be speaking with two guests who are both influencers and content creators with growing global followings. Hanli Hoefer, media personality, and Ming Bridges, founder and CEO of Rentadella. Before we begin, let's take a moment to settle into our intention for our time together. To listen, to respond, to explore beyond what we think we know. Take a nice breath in and exhale. Let go of bias, let go of judgment, let go of agenda or any fixed outcome. Welcome your curious mind and your receptive heart. And from here, let's meet today's wonderful guest, Hanli Ming. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us. I'm so excited for this.
Yeah, that was also such a wonderful intro. I'm also just closed my eyes and let the words seep in. So thank you. Excited to be here.
I'm glad it felt nice. So I'd love for you both to just share a little with our listeners about who you are as an influencer and as a human. Hanli, do you want to go first?
Primarily, even though I do work as an influencer for some of my days, when I answer the question of who I am and what I do, mainly I consider myself to be a host, podcaster, a TV presenter. I've done some modeling and some acting, and yeah, all of that lean in together with my content creation. And who I am as a person, I'm a very curious being. I love being in nature. I love authentic conversations. And yeah, I guess teaming up with what you said at the beginning, I'm someone who lives with my heart open. And yeah, that's me.
Beautiful. The two things that hit my heart are when you talk about your open heart and just being curious. I feel I resonate with those things. Thank you. Ming, can you share for you, who are you as an influencer and as a human?
Yeah, of course. So for me, I started off my influencer journey when I used to sing, and that kind of went into what I portrayed as mainly what I did with my life. Whereas now I feel like I've kind of got more into the role of content creation, where I do a lot of fun things to kind of draw my audience into my world of fashion with my brand, but also to talk about things in my past that I've gone through, like my eating disorders and, things to try and hopefully help inspire people and then make their lives a bit better. I always think with content creation, I'm trying to add value to people's lives. Myself as a person, I'd say I'm a very frantic person, completely the opposite to Hanli's beautiful answer. I'm someone who's really busy, constantly trying to do things. And I think it goes well with my content creation because I feel like I'm always trying to put things out there to people, but I do it in a very authentic way. I feel like I create content as I go along my life and try and do things that I think about and want other people to talk to me about and open a discussion on, things that matter to me. And I hope that matter to other people.
Beautiful. Thanks for sharing that. I really resonate with the part about sharing content that's going to sort of help people through past stories, because it's something that I do as well. And you guys know each other. So can you share with our listeners what your relationship is?
Ming and I have known each other actually since we were teenagers. We really do go all the way back. We met when we were, was it 15, 14?
14, 15.
Yeah, very early stages. And it's pretty cute because I think at least it was my first modeling job.
Yeah, it was mine too.
Yeah, I love that. So we've known each other for a really long time. And apart from being peers in the industry, we are also friends in real life. Yeah.
It must be so nice to have a friend going through the ups and downs of the journey, because I think it's a pretty intense one. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we're really lucky. And we actually have a great group of friends who are in the industry with us and also do content creation. And I think having friends that we can share things with and, support each other through this, I think it's really important because sometimes it can take a big toll on your mental health, or just getting feedback about what you're doing is, okay and in line with what you're feeling. Because I think, especially in a world where everyone has an opinion about what you post, having people that are like, nope, you're staying true to your message, you are doing what you want to do. It's really nice. So I feel like we are really lucky to have good friendships in this industry.
It's so true. And also, to be honest, content creation for us is a role that sort of fell into our lap as a byproduct of what we set out to do. So Ming and I, we didn't set out to become influencers. Ming set out to be a musician, and I set out to be a TV host. And then she became a business owner, and I, continued on this path. But social media and creation was something that just had to happen for us in order to keep up with how the industry changed. And so it's sort of this unnatural, well, kind of weird thing that we just have to adapt and do to put ourselves out there and to share and create. It was sort of not in the job description when we signed up, and it kind of popped up later on.
Thanks for bringing that into the conversation. That's so fascinating. I started creating content not that long ago, but it was a considered choice to A, help more people, and B, grow my business. And what I found is that I have a real love-hate relationship with it. What about you guys?
Yep,
Oh
100% agree with that.
Absolutely, so true.
I think it is these days required to stay relevant. If you are a human, an individual that is, I guess, trying to create a career, it's really important to have a personal brand. And so if you don't, then you're going to fall behind. So, like you said, it's now a necessity if you want to get ahead.
Yeah. In a strange way, it's not like the work that we do speaks for itself. We also now need to put a lot of effort into almost like showcasing and, in a weird way, proving that we are also these people that have likability and have views and have something that can be considered admirable, to also just, keep our brand alive.
Yeah, it's crazy because on one hand, it's an amazing thing. It's amazing that tomorrow you could start your career and have millions of people looking at your content, subscribing into what you're doing outside of social media. On the other hand, it's really hard not to take things personally because it is you putting out what you do every day. Like you can tell your story however you want to. So there are dangers in that as well. But sometimes you can get too obsessed with it and too into it. Like for me, I try and think of it. On one hand, I really try and put authentic content out of there. On the other hand, I also try and look at it sometimes as a business to remind myself that, if people don't give you likes, if people don't do this, you can try again tomorrow. You can figure out different ways to share. It's not a reflection of me not being good enough for people to like me and things like that. So I think, but again, this is something that was thrusted upon us. We are learning how to navigate it, what it means. So yeah, trying to figure out like mental health around that has been difficult. I mean, ups and downs. For me, I had my whole eating disorder came from social media, but now I'm using it as a way to inspire other people not to have eating disorders. So it's kind of like catch 22.
Can you say more about how your eating disorder came from social media?
Yeah, sure. So for me, when I started in my singing career, I got told to lose weight basically. And at that time I was, slightly, I guess, overweight for the industry at the time in Asia. So I started, going on diets and doing things like that. And I was just really unfortunate that at the time I was doing that, Instagram had started getting more and more popular and I had signed up for an account. And as I lost weight, I realized my social media following drastically rose up. Everyone was following me and telling me how beautiful I was, how skinny I was, what's my diet tricks. And I kind of got obsessed because I was like, people like me when I'm skinny and I'm going to make sure that I'm so skinny that, I get all these followers. And it built up and up and up. And I just, completely got obsessed. At this time on social media, the personalities that were thriving were all those like fitness influencers, people showing that they eat really healthily. And, looking back now, all those influencers, loads of them have come out and said they have, what's the word when you're really healthy?
Orthorexia.
Yeah, orthorexia. A lot of them actually came out and said it was orthorexia. And we were all glorifying it as like such an amazing thing to basically be orthorexic. But now there's a word for it. So I kind of got all caught up in that cycle, which sucks, which sucked. But that really was when social media just started and my whole life was on my phone and constantly seeing these images of this is what your inspiration, motivation should be. Whereas now I realize, and part of my recovery was really unfollowing these accounts, because especially when you are spending all your day on your phone, that becomes, the 5 people you surround yourself the most with are those influencers you decide to follow. So it is really important that you, not just in your life in general, but like what you consume are things that are healthy for you, mentally, speaking.
Everything we offer ourselves is food in a way. So the content we consume can hurt us or heal us. Hanli, have you had any experiences, not necessarily with food and eating, but with social media warping your perception of yourself?
Yes, I think, just off the bat, absolutely. I think for me, it would be a different angle from it being more about body image. Actually, when I think back on it, I caught social media being so toxically positive for a while. And because of this curated, perfect lives that we were seeing all the time, I think that and the comparison trap that I would find myself in different dips of my mood or my time of the month, my cycle, it could really affect me. And actually, it was during the pandemic, I feel, when that really started to take a shift. And it was also for me, that's when I started to take a shift with my content as well, and just started to say really like openly on my stories, like, hey, this is insane what we're going through. I'm not okay. Are you guys okay? Like, I'm going to start therapy. I started therapy with you, Natalia. I was sharing my journey, and I wasn't seeing a lot of people just being open about actually going to therapy, actually getting help, and actually admitting that kind of stuff. I think the timing of everything, it was very collective, but I hit a point where I just had fatigue of the perfect online. I was getting really over everything being curated. And I was like, okay, I'm not curated. And so let me pull back the layers and just be a bit more real.
How did you find your followers responded to that?
It was so positively, actually, it was, I wouldn't say overwhelming, but it was unexpected of how many people were that receptive to it, because it was really terrifying to an extent to come out there and be like, yeah, I'm not okay. And even though that was the trend, and it has become a trend to really be vulnerable with your mental health, it is still really scary if you are breaking that mold for yourself to just show that vulnerability. So I was really grateful that it was met with support. But that being said, it was also met with like haters, which is just how the internet works. I remember I got messages from people with no compassion, basically telling me to like suck it up. This generation's really soft, like that kind of messaging. There was one where it was like, this is such a first world problem. And I was like, well, is it? And so that was surprising.
I'm sorry that you received haters. Let's talk about haters a little bit more, because they're around. And what I found is that the more people who follow you, the more haters that you're going to have. So can you guys share maybe an experience that stood out to you over time of a hater or a troll engaging with you? I'm only very new to this, but there are 3 for me that really caused me to pause and made me question so much, which is a bit scary, that one person's comment through a screen can really make you question your entire reality and your worth and what you're doing.
Yeah, 100%. I don't have it too much now. The ones I get now don't really affect me. I think it's just because I am in a better headspace with it. But when I first started out on social media, I even had someone make a website about how they wanted to drown me and my whole family in a river. Like literally insane. Yeah, horrible. And at this time I was like super young, did not know how to deal with it. Literally like hiding under my like blanket. But now being more mature and understanding where people are coming from with this, I kind of meet it with, there's no happy, successful person who's out there messaging awful things to people. There isn't. The people who are doing this must have such sad lives and like not have that much love in their life. So I really do feel sorry for these people. And I try and remind myself to be sympathetic towards them and think, what type of person and where must they have to be in their lives for them to bother commenting on a stranger's picture, like horrible things. And I try and wish them love and, hope that they can find like peace and better thing to do with their lives. But you're going to get, like for me, you're going to get trolls and haters if you do anything interesting, basically. Like anything that goes viral online is because people want to cast an opinion about it. people want to say like, yes, I completely agree, I love this, or like, I completely disagree. So it's almost like you can stay in your comfort level and do nothing interesting and not have anyone comment, or you can do things that are pushing the boundaries and getting reactions. And sometimes that's a great thing. Like if you're getting reactions, and obviously if you get all negative reactions, it's not great. But if you're getting a mix of positive and negatives, that means you're pushing people to think differently. You're creating something that is causing a reaction, which is actually a great thing. So now I view like trolls and haters in a different way, because sometimes I'm like, maybe I'm just doing something out of my comfort zone now that's causing a reaction. And maybe that is actually a great thing.
What I'm hearing is that conversation of any kind is really good for social media. And if we depersonalize it, haters don't have to be a bad thing. They're actually helping expand your reach.
Yeah. But having said that, it takes one comment to take me down. I might say this today and someone tomorrow goes like, I don't agree with your values, you're spreading blah, 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 you're a hypocrite. And I'll just, my whole world will crumble. So, I mean, it does suck when you get messages like that, but it is just trying to, again, remind yourself about all the things you know to be true and be like, is what they're saying a fact? My friends don't think this. People close to me don't think this. I don't know this person. But yeah, it does suck.
You have to keep checking your reality.
Yeah.
So it's a bit like the haters are trying to gaslight you, and you have to be like, yeah, that's your reality, but it's not mine. I'm not joining you in that story. But that takes work. That takes strength.
Yeah.
What
100%.
about you, Hanli? Have you experienced something similar?
Yeah, in a really sort of sad way. I'm no stranger to haters. You know, growing up, I experienced my fair share of bullying. And so in a weird way that taught me a lot. And then when I entered the like internet space and I would see a few comments of just like kind of haters, I felt like I went through something when I was younger that I was a little bit more armed. But that being said, it also really does depend on like where I'm at in the month. Cause sometimes I'm like, screw the haters. Like, who cares? And then other times I'm like, oh my God, that comment is going to stick to me like glue. And I don't think I can get over it. And just the other day, actually, it's like just 2 days ago, Ming was in this chat with our fellow friends that are like influencers. And I shared with them, I'm like, guys, I posted this video on TikTok, but I'm getting a lot of negativity and I'm just like not in the right headspace to take it right now. I don't know what to do. And then like 30 minutes later, I was like, guys, I just put the video on private because I just cannot handle it right now. And I'm not even going to feel bad that I did that. And Ming was like, you know what? Do it. If that's what you need to do to feel better for your mental health right now, do that. It was really helpful because, like, at the end of the day, I feel like it's our responsibility and my responsibility to look after my mental health, my emotional being. And if I have the power to control that, even if it means removing something, I'm fine with that. I'm not like, I don't look at it as a defeat or a failure. I'm looking at it as, okay, I need to do what's best for me. And I think people should understand that about the internet. And when you're creating, like, you have control.
I think it's really empowering to understand you have control and you can set the boundaries and you can take anything down. I think you can also, most channels block comments or remove them.
Yeah, block the haters, literally block them.
Yeah.
But I feel upset. Like I'm having a response to listen to how much hate there is in the world when people are just trying to A, live their lives, and B, stay afloat and build a career and do what they need to do to succeed. Where do you think it all comes from?
Well, I think Ming said it. There's just a lot of sad people out there who only joys are to tear others down. And that's just how it is. Yeah. I mean, I feel like you have the answer for that. I think you know exactly why people do that. There's just a lot of people who just refuse to look at their own shit. And so they project it onto everyone else, on or offline, right?
I feel like social media has become at once a remedy and a poison. So I feel a lot of people, and myself included, will hop onto social media often to avoid feelings that they might be having or to not be alone, to stay connected, particularly through these last few years where the world's been changing and there's been so much stuff going on. And so I think on the one hand, it's a place to soothe, but on the other hand, it can be a place to dump or release trauma and pain. And so I think that's what's happening. And I wonder, is there a way to shift that or stop that? And I don't think there is, because it's such a free thing. Everyone can do what they like. And most of the time we engage with social media without intention. And I'd love to see more education for people around, as a user of social media, how to use it healthily and responsibly and ethically. Is there anything like that around that you guys know of or no?
Nothing that comes to mind. I think for me, when I hear that, it's kind of like in real life, there are loads of people who are bullies. On the internet, that's just multiplied because every single bully in the world can reach you. But I think, in general, not even just with social media, it's just like teaching kids and people in general, other ways to get out their anger or sadness and not project on other people in general. I think on the internet, it's just so much easier because you are able to do it as a keyboard warrior, like without people knowing who you are. It almost gives people the confidence to be bullies, which is awful. But yeah, so I think more education in general, finding better ways to, release emotion. A lot of people feel very like they can't get things out, and that's their way of, dealing with their stuff, which is what I try and see it as now when I see trolls, they're dealing with stuff and they've just chosen to push it onto me and I'm not going to take their baggage.
Well, I think that there should be some sort of social policing. There should be like some internet squad that goes around and it like has like a little internet stick to be like, hey, that's really mean. What's your problem? Or just kind of keep people in check.
Like an
But
AI widget or something like that?
yeah, just something that
I'm
goes
like
around.
imagining a little
Yeah,
cartoon with a stick waving its finger.
that's
No,
also what
no.
I was imagining. Like, be
Maybe you
nice.
should create it.
Well, I don't know. There's so many ways to engage. I'm also one that doesn't, maybe not the healthiest approach, but I also am one that stands up to bullies. So even if it is online and if people are negative, sometimes towards me, but to anyone else, I find myself in the comments just telling those trolls to like back off, because I think that we should all have each other's backs in a way, even online. Actually, I feel great when I go on the comments and if there is a troll, I love seeing people like challenge them and correct them. And I think if we all step in and we also create that culture online of just supporting each other, even through the comments from negativity, I think that's a really good beginning.
Beautiful. It's like a call to social protection. I wonder if you guys could start a movement. When we talk about abuse dynamics, we talk about the victim, the perpetrator, and the bystander. And so the bystander is complicit in the abuse taking place. And so we do need people who, when they see something bad going on, are going to stand up and say no and protect the person. The tricky thing is, as a bystander, we might be putting ourselves in harm's way. And most people are going to choose their own safety over someone else's, which isn't an unhealthy thing. So it's complicated. What do you think would inspire other people to stand up online and say, hey, don't treat this person that way?
I think just seeing, leading by example, like Hanli saying, when I go to people's posts now, I rarely ever see a mean comment without other people commenting, telling that person to back off. I don't think I've ever seen it, to be fair, which is amazing. So when I see that, it gives me the confidence then to next time when I see something to like join in and be like, yeah, that's not cool. Hopefully they stop doing it. I think, yeah, leading by example, the more people who stand up to bullying online, the more people who have the confidence to go in and help as well.
I'd love to see some content created around all of this. I think no one knows that they should be doing that. And I wonder, I have such a belief that much of the reason why we don't support each other well and relate well is because no one ever taught us how. And so that's a big part of my job in the content I create across, different medium. I think we never learned how to show up and look after ourselves and each other. I don't know about you, but I find with this whole social media content creation journey that I can get sucked so far in to what I'm doing and what I'm creating that sometimes it will trigger a sense of anxiety in me. And I'll start feeling like nothing's happened. So there's no troll, there's no hater, but all of a sudden I've been really focused and I'm seeing everything's moving and, numbers are growing and likes are growing and there's engagement. And then all of a sudden I feel super anxious and I don't feel quite right. And I've learned to realize, oh, I need to get out of this social media vortex now. Do you guys get that?
Yeah,
For
100%.
sure. For sure. Yeah. Like we are just our confidence and self-esteem. Like I wish it was completely like a flat line on a graph, but for me, it feels like mountains, like a really dramatic mountain range. And at different points, sometimes, like I said, I feel like I'm creating, I'm sharing, and I'm feeling really empowered by myself or putting myself out there like that. And then there are days when I am like, oh my God, am I oversharing? Am I putting too much of myself out there? Like it's a really strange up and down relationship. And like you said earlier, Natalia, it's definitely a love hate. But what you as well said about taking a minute to pull back, that is the best approach, I believe, is to know when you need a timeout from the web as a consumer or as a creator and do just that. Because getting sucked in and watching other people's lives and getting caught up on just the activity on it, I mean, it's not really sustainable if you do it too much, right?
I think it also takes you away from actually living a life
Oh,
in
yeah.
the present. Like you just go into this very mental, non-physical, unreal space. We're not alive, really, in my experience. So I think we
Mm.
have to learn to come back to ourselves. And I wonder what it would be like, again, to make guidelines for self-care for anybody who is a content creator or influencer to support that in a really proactive way. While we've been talking about this, I've been thinking of, it's a bit of a random connection, but I've been thinking of this relatively new dating app, Thursday, that's based out of the UK. And they are only open on Thursdays. So all the other dating apps you can go on every single day and you can scroll, and it's similar. You can get anxiety, you can get burnout, you can start wondering what is wrong with me. But with this particular one, with Thursday, it's only open once a week. And I think that that's really good for mental health. And so while you guys were sharing, I was wondering what would it be like to do that for like social media? But then I realized it wouldn't work because social media is all about consumerism. So in the end, when you are on social media to build a career and to create revenue, it's about money. And that's ultimately one of the reasons that people are there. So to say, well, now you can only make money or, you know, put your efforts towards making money through this revenue stream one day a week probably wouldn't fly. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe for dating that could be quite fun, but there is such a, I don't know, I think a lot of people really use social media. I mean, also positively to feel connected, to like check in on their friends. And I don't know, I would think it's a really cool idea. I'd love to see it, maybe even just practice it like a little bit. But I don't know if we as a collective are there yet. I don't know. I don't think so. I feel like we're way past it.
Yeah, I feel like I'm happy to try like one day off social media.
Yeah, one day off.
Start there. But yeah, no, I completely agree. I think it just depends where you are. Some people really do use social media as a way to like not feel lonely and to feel connected and to be a part of, you know, a community, which is super important. Like, especially during COVID times, so many people turn to social media to keep in touch with their friends, see how they are. But again, for content creators, as Hanli said, sometimes, you know, we're up, sometimes we're down. It's knowing when you're down to then maybe try and like implement things to take a break, because it is so easy to get sucked into, you know, social media becoming your reality and being obsessive, checking what everyone's doing and trying to create more content and things like that, knowing when to take a break and yeah, maybe trying to implement things like that for yourself when you're there.
Actually, it's quite funny because when leading up to my period, the 5 days leading up, I'm very sensitive. And I've realized that I should not be on social media leading up to those days. Like, I shouldn't be posting or creating to post. I shouldn't be watching my stuff because my lens is a lot more critical and I'm just a lot more triggered. And it's taken me a while to realize the correlation there. But that is something that I'm starting to implement for myself to be like, no, don't go there, girl.
Self-aware. So I will
Yeah.
never post anything if I'm feeling triggered or if I can feel one of my lenses, because I've got so much past trauma and I've done so much healing work, but I still get triggered, and still sometimes I have these days where there's a lens or a film over my experience. So it might be a lens of shame, or it might be a lens of like anxiety or fear, or a lens of anger. And I know when I have that, do not message anyone, like unless it's a really close friend, like don't respond to anything, don't talk to a client, don't get on social media, because it will be colored by it. And again, I'll be more sensitive to the response or lack of response. So thank you for bringing that up. think that's so important. What I'm hearing through this little leg of our conversation is that it's such an individual and ever-changing journey. And the most important thing is to get clear on your intentions and your boundaries and your personal warning signals that you've gone into the vortex, and have the tools that you need to get out, which will often include your close others.
Yeah, I have a thing I do now when I post. I ask myself, why am I posting this? Because if it's purely to get likes and I don't get them, if I'm going to be really upset about it, then I just don't post. Like, I have to make sure I am adding value. So I know if I don't get the reaction I wanted, I don't feel bad about it, because I know that I wanted to put this out there. And the few people who did like it, the few people who did, consume it, I'm happy I shared that message with them. Sometimes you get to a place where you're putting out so much content that you're waiting to get the feedback, and you get really affected when things don't do well. So it is just reminding yourself, why are you on social media? What are you doing? What value, what purpose do you have here, and why it's making you feel good, why it's a good thing that you're posting, instead of it being like something that is about your ego. And
I think that's so important. I mean, the content I share is quite different to what you guys share, but I absolutely, when I started, wanted to get really clear for myself on my boundaries and my intentions. And so I've got an intention to share content that will help people understand themselves, heal, and show up as more kind and equitable, compassionate humans. I also am really clear I'm not there to trigger angry conversation. And it's interesting because it links to what you said before about sometimes that really controversial content is what's going to fly. But I've made a very strong decision for myself. I don't wish to put that into the world, and I don't wish to create more people moaning and being angry and fighting. And I want to create something different. And so it's made my journey really interesting, because I have realized, well, if I did it this way, I'd probably grow a lot quicker and I'd probably get more followers and more people commenting. But I keep having to check myself and how I want to do it, which I never do anything the normal way. It's always a little bit harder.
I love that you do that so much, because I think that that is the most compassionate way to approach the internet and content sharing. Because when you really get into the depth of social media and growing and like baiting first liners and stuff, like there's so much strategy that accounts and individuals go through to just get their content buzzing, that sometimes it's more about like the impact and the shock and the trigger than it actually is about a helpful message and a considerate approach. And I shared that story about how I took down a post because it was getting a lot of attention, and it was getting a mixed bag of positive and negative attention. And I actually took it down because I was like, I don't want to create negativity out there. I don't want to trigger people, and I don't want that to be what I'm about. And that's why I want to take it down. I don't regret the message. I just want to convey it differently so that it doesn't have that impact, because that's just not who I am. So I love what you said about being clear of how you're using it and why you're using it, because I mean, it really shows through your work. And I think if you are clear there, that's what brings in your authentic followers. Not people who just want to get like shocked or, entertained. They actually want value from your words.
Thanks for sharing that. I also think it's a bit of an art to choose words that land or resonate but do not trigger. And so to me, that's my life's work. That's my art. As a writer, as a content creator, as a speaker, I really want to use those words that do just that. But it's not easy, and it's taken me many years to find them. There was something else I wanted to respond with, but I've forgotten. Maybe it will come back. Oh, this is it. So speaking of how there's so much craftiness to the way content is created to create buzz and to generate revenue. My first career before I was a therapist is marketing and content creation. And so I know exactly how to do that. But I kind of put that all away when I became a mummy, because I just thought, this is yucky. And all I want to do is love my little baby. And so I never went back to it. But of course, it comes into my work now as a content creator and as an author. And when I was looking to grow my following and to put online courses out there, I spoke to a couple of agencies that might be able to help. And I was so turned off by the way they wanted to sell, because I felt like it was speaking to a wound. So the way they would generate leads and then sales was to speak to someone's pain, to kind of manipulate them into thinking I was going to cure it. And it made me feel so disgusted But I ended up again saying, I'm not doing it this way. I'm going slower. I'm going to find my words and my authentic voice. And that means my business is going to grow a hell of a lot slower, but I will sleep well at night. So yeah, that's been such a journey for me the last few years, because I've only started this a few years ago.
You know what I feel? I completely relate. I just kind of roll my eyes these days when I find something being created more for shock value and to just grab your attention in a really aggressive manner versus than actually like a very organic and natural approach to just speaking to people as people on the internet. And I actually feel, even as a consumer, I feel it all around me, and being on platforms like TikTok, which is a lot more about that authentic vibe. I think we're all sick of that approach. I think we're all sick of that like one liner, like, are you doing this? Like really like, almost like strangling to get your attention. And it's feeling like everyone just wants that realer, considerate, compassionate approach of just communication.
I think in the end, everyone simply wants to feel connected, but it's a really unconscious need or desire. And because it's unconscious, it ends up becoming really convoluted and not being nearly as easy as it could be. If we were all able to show up and say, hey, I just want to feel connected through this content, I think things would be a lot easier.
Yeah. Now, what I was going to say is when I see like the shock content, it's literally entertainment value. Like they give you something where you want to watch till the end to follow up whatever it is and see what they have to say. And normally isn't that exciting. That doesn't make me want to follow someone. That makes me just watch and be like, okay, whatever. What makes me want to follow someone is, I don't want to say buying into their brand, but it is the authentic conversation and getting to know someone. Like when I follow someone, I follow them because I've heard their story. I want to be part of their journey, you know what I mean? And I think people are seeing through the bullshit really, basically, with the craftiness now. And again, not that I hate it, because sometimes it is very entertaining, but same as Hanli, I kind of do roll my eyes at it, because at the end of the day, they might get loads of views, but they don't get the genuine, real following that wants to stick with you, wants to follow your journey, and actually wants that connection, like you were saying. So at the end, like, yeah, you do have entertainment, but you don't really get the true blue loyal people who are going to stick with you like through 10 years, 20 years of your brand.
And I think those true blue people that want to stick with you, if you end up then going on to build a business, are the ones that are going to become your loyal customers. So there's a bit of a journey, right? From building a following is usually there's a greater goal, which is to bring them into a business. I'd love to speak a little bit for our listeners about how we all met, because I think it's just interesting. Do either of you guys want to share how we met?
Well,
yeah, Hanli, because I met you through your relationship with Hanli.
Yes. Well, I was recommended by a mutual friend to team up with you, Natalia, and you were the first therapist that I've worked with over the pandemic. And we did it in a collaborative sense where I experienced your services and I was sharing it back to my followers, keeping it as real as I could be about how therapy was really impacting me. And it was at such a really pinnacle moment during the pandemic, because I really, for me personally, hit a real boiling point with my own thoughts and just, yeah. I mean, you know this, and I've told so many people, but going to therapy was one of the greatest game changers for me in terms of my journey. And yeah, and we've continued to now stay friends. And I mean, here we are on your podcast, and you came on my podcast, and we've done little events together. Like it's a friendship, and it's a very supportive one.
It's been a journey. So you're the first influencer I ever collaborated with. And to be honest, when we first talked, I was a bit nervous. I'm like, oh no, am I good enough to do this? Like, that's where I was as a therapist, as a clinic director. I'm still like, oh, am I good enough to be on Instagram? So it was really interesting doing that and stepping into it. But I found it really valuable. And so it was through that collaboration that I learned, hey, this kind of content can really help so many people. And through our collaboration, and like you said, there's been people following you and resonating with your mental health journey that are now seeing practitioners that are part of my company, Alima Health. So there is this deeply authentic and meaningful relationship, and collaboration has actually helped a lot of people. So there's like
Yeah,
this little ecosystem.
100%. Actually, being really open about going to therapy and sharing that journey, I've actually encountered a generous handful, I'm proudly say, of followers who'd met me in real life and then told me that they started therapy after they saw me talking about therapy online. And that's also from our collaboration. And that really warms my heart because that's a really powerful ripple that social media can bring, where the impact has carried on so far that it's now really helping someone just by talking about it and sharing. I think
It
that's
really
really cool.
warms my heart
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah.
So much. And I met a couple of them at the recent event we did at Mandala
Hmm.
Class too.
Yeah, they were there.
Therapists from my company. So beautiful. And then through you, Hanli, I met Ming.
Yes. Oh, I remember our first session together. I mean, well, I first heard about you from Hanli. Hanli was singing your praises, and I was just like, I have to meet this woman. She sounds incredible. And I remember during our session, when I was lying on the table and you were basically feeling my energy, I was shaking. I was like projectile crying. Is that a word?
It is
I
now.
literally, it was just all coming out. I couldn't believe it. My body was releasing so much. I like the next few days just had like everything come out. All this stuff from so long that kind of been trapped inside me that I felt was dormant, just awoken basically. It was such an amazing release. And I remember when about sharing that experience, we did a little giveaway as our first collab on my socials. And I had like hundreds of people write in for this giveaway. And it was so interesting because all of them had gone out of their way to share with me what they had been going through and why they really wanted to start therapy, but didn't know how to, were scared about finding the right person to go to, what people would think about it. They didn't even know where to start. And it's a bit like Hanli saying, because people don't talk about it, like a lot of people just don't go. Like they've just heard, oh, people go to therapy. They don't even know like how to start. Like, can they do it? Is it for everybody? So it was so interesting to know that there were so many people who reached out to learn more and even be so willing to share with me all their problems and what they're going through. And yeah, it was just so wonderful, even from that small post, that so much came from it. So I think it's so amazing that you are now so present on social media, and that's grown so much, and you really are helping. Even if it is slow or fast, you're helping so many people, because every one person you help is changing their lives. So that's amazing.
Thank you. I think it was really powerful that you allowed me to film the session, because I think people seeing a therapy session, and particularly a somatic one where there's a lot of release happening, I think it just evokes, oh, I think that's inside me, and I think I might need to talk and cry and shake and all of these things too. And so from that collaboration that we did, the giveaway was to join my first online course. So it was a 6-week course. So I'd been running in-person courses already for a number of years. And I decided through the pandemic, well, I guess I need to do it online. I always prefer in person, but I realized, oh, I need to do it online. And it's funny, I'm looping back here 3 years later, after mainly doing things in person. I'm realizing, well, there's now tens of thousands of people around the world interested in what I'm doing. So I'm going to have to get back online. And the course that I did back then, that some of your followers ended up joining through that collaboration, that was the map for me to learn, how do you do it? How do you create a successful, safe space online? And so that learning has been something that is now springboarding something much bigger that I'm planning towards the end of this year. So I want to thank both of you so much for supporting me. Oh, I feel like I'm going to cry, to step into this world, because I've been very afraid of it. Yeah, and I'm still a little bit afraid of it, but you guys really helped me step into this. So thank you.
Oh, well, you're so welcome. My heart's feeling really warm. I'm like, so
I
much
wanted
goodness here.
I know. I adore both of you. I want to talk a little bit more about, we're right now talking about how social media can be so good and create so much good. So I want to talk a little bit about the strategy behind that. So Ming, this is for you. You run a really successful fashion retail business, Rentadella. So how much has your personal brand contributed to your business brand? And do you have a strategy, or is it a little bit more organic?
It is very organic. My husband always says to me, wow, you put like zero effort into strategy. Can you imagine if you actually put some strategy behind this? How will you be doing? I'm like, oh yeah. It definitely helped that I had my own personal brand. I think for me, having that was a great starting point for people to find my business. And also just because I'm out in the scene, I could wear my own dresses, having a network of people really, really helped when first starting off. But nowadays, I find that a lot of people find me through Rentadella. A lot of people come up to me and like, oh, are you the owner of Rentadella? I always see you on Rentadella's page, which is amazing. It means to me that, Rentadella has almost outgrown my brand in Singapore, which it makes me so happy. But yeah, it's definitely very organic. For me, again, I love to start from what value am I adding. And for me, Rentadella's message is basically, I want every woman in Singapore to look and feel beautiful at all their special occasions. So I say to my staff, what we're doing now is we want more women to come, not to make more money, but we want as many women as possible to come so we can help them find the best outfit for them and make them feel beautiful. We may not have the best outfit for everyone, but we can try our best. And to do that, I want to spread the message as much as possible to let people know that we're here and we carry many sizes and we do all this stuff. So it is really organic in a way that I just post from my heart. I really do want to have more strategy. And I think I basically just roll with what I know from my own branding. So for example, reels do better now than posts. And Instagram's always changing what content gets seen more. So we always just play around with that. It is just part of the business now of showcasing what you do, finding the best way to get people's attention and let people know that you're there. So my strategy basically is just producing as much content as possible for Rentadella. With Ming Bridges, my own brand now, it's taken a bit of a backseat to that because I do want to focus more on my business and my mission with that. But with my own Ming Bridges brand, for me, my main things I want to show my followers, inspire them to hopefully go after their dreams, inspire them not to have an eating disorder, which was my main mission for a long time. But now I'm kind of stepping back from that because for me, showing that was really powerful at one point. And now for me, it keeps bringing me back to a place that I feel like I'm no longer in, which is why I moved more towards the Rentadella stuff. Sorry, I'm just blabbing on now. But yeah, so basically it's more organic content now than strategic. But I do actually want to start doing more strategic content in the sense of I'm just not a marketing person and I have no clue what I'm doing. But I do want to do better for my business. So I think, it isn't a bad thing to have a strategy because you do want to grow and you're growing for your mission and your purpose. So I definitely do want to step more into that this year and focus on, having more of a vision when I'm producing my content.
Thanks for sharing. I think it's an amazing feat and something to be proud of that your business brand that was originally fueled by a personal brand is now getting traction on its own, because that means it's scaled. So it's no longer dependent on you. And to me, that's the holy grail. When you have a personal brand, when you scale a business beyond your personal energy or your name, that's amazing. And you've done it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Speaking of shifting gears, you mentioned a little bit about shifting content. Hanli, I want to ask you, earlier you were an MTV host and a model and a host, and now you're really making this conscious shift towards authenticity and wellness and love and relationships. How has the shift been for you, and what challenges have you faced it's like you're going through a rebrand?
Well, the shift was one that was unavoidable because I started at MTV and that big pop culture element of my image was in my early 20s. And, I've entered my 30s now and I'm just different. I've grown and I've changed. When it came to creating the content I didn't want to be a hypocrite, because I was like, I want to see more real. I want people to talk about their feelings more. I want to share more human experiences. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to do the thing that I want to see. I'm going to be the change. And actually, it's been really wonderful. I think, to be honest, Instagram is different from my TikTok. I am putting more focus onto my TikTok because TikTok is the platform where this type of approach is more welcomed. It's just how TikTok runs. You can literally, you can like stream yourself just speaking anything that you want and put it out there. And that is how it works. Whereas Instagram, I think, will still always have this sort of like best version of ourselves culture. And so I think that the two are just different, and I've accepted that. And so, yeah, being more open about my journey, about myself. I do that because I wanted that. I wanted to see that. And actually having a podcast really supported me in being able to practice just being able to talk about myself and my growth and my journey. And once I was putting the hours into my podcast, which is almost at 90 episodes now I feel like I have have the practice to translate that into my social media and to just continue that goal, which is just to be as authentically myself as possible for as long as I can.
I think that's such a beautiful goal. And if we could all live like that, the world would be a very different place. And, it's very brave to do that. You're inspiring me thinking about TikTok. So I've been like, no, I can't do TikTok. I can't do Twitter. Everyone's like, you got to get on here. You got to get on that. But I have been thinking for over a year now, I think I should share some more personal stories about, how I get triggered or what I'm processing or these funny little interactions. I can actually be quite funny, but I don't share any of my sort of humorous self through my Instagram or my LinkedIn because it is quite curated, like you said. And so I've got this fear of like, can I do this? I think it would be so valuable. So I've got a fear. And I also just have a bit of a repulsion because I'm like, oh, I don't think I want to put my energy to this. But now you're making me think maybe I should do that on TikTok.
Yeah, I have so much fun on TikTok. I have TikTok has brought back fun and content creation for me, which is so refreshing because we've been doing this now for 8-9 years, as long as Instagram has been around, pretty much. So in the last 6 months to be like, oh, this is fun has been the highlight. If it's not fun, then it's not worth doing, right? At least that's how I like to approach most things. I always try to find pleasure in anything. And so yes, definitely get on TikTok.
You just made an ad for TikTok and they should
I
pay
did.
you. Like I'll cut that bit up and give it to you and you can sell it to them because that's
TikTok,
the
yeah.
TikTok ever. All right, I'll have a think about it. How much time per week do you guys spend creating content?
Right now, it's really little. I try and do at least one day a week with Rentadella, and I'm trying to now, as I start my own content up again, maybe do one day a week. And when I say one day a week, it's not like the whole day. It's like I spend like maybe 2 hours on a Monday planning, and then on the Thursday, I'll spend 3 hours and shoot some stuff. I think a lot of content creators, when they're at their peak trying to grow, try and post like once a day and things like that. I'm definitely not there at the moment. I'm like focusing on other things, but at my prime of being on social media, I think just working into your day, it just depends. Like if you are doing a lot of things and you can just take a picture and have someone help you like edit it and things like that, then it's easy to post. But if you are having to create from scratch and do like difficult things, and it's a bit harder. But like Hanli said, the great thing about TikTok is you can literally sit there, talk about what you want to do and post it. And it's very short, it's simple, and you get your message across without, like for me, when I do my fashion videos, it can take me like hours to edit them. So I'm actually now working on getting an assistant to help me so that I can create the content I want and have someone else help me edit it so we can just churn out faster. So yeah.
What about you, Hanli?
So I think what's important to also add to the conversation here is that the three of us create content secondary to our main roles. We are not primarily content creators and influencers. And so I think that does shift the attitude of how often we need to be creating and posting, because that is not our main bread and butter. If we were trying to become full-time content creators, it would be a totally different answer. It would be pretty much all day, every day, because that's the hustle. But for me, hosting and projects are in studio and working with brands like emceeing, that's my main role. So the hours and time I spent putting into social media really, and it's maybe not the most like pro answer, but it really depends on my mood. And I'm so happy that I like navigate it through if I'm feeling good enough to do this, because that little boundary setting that I do for myself is like, okay, I'm in control. I don't feel the pressure to post this. I'm sharing because I want to share, not because I feel like I have to share. And so the hours really differ if I'm having a good time or not. Yeah.
I think that's so important to do it in an empowered way. For me, it's been really up and down, but I've got a little bit of a system now. So, where I put most of my energy is actually LinkedIn. It's been really life-changing for me to be there. So most mornings, maybe 5 mornings a week, I like literally get up, I boil the kettle and make a coffee, I light incense, and I do my LinkedIn post. And my strategy is usually I'll see some things on Instagram that resonate with me. So I'll take someone else's image and then I write something beautiful and profound and I put it on LinkedIn. And then what happens is once a week, one of my team members will actually go and take my content off LinkedIn and create it into my brand and make like multi-slide posts for Instagram. And then I also have any time that I'm speaking or, doing a podcast or a live session, I'll have the footage. And then I have a video editor, I think in Nepal, who cuts it up. And we've been working with him for about 18 months now. So I feel really happy that I've got this little system. And so all that I'm doing with my energy is like 20 to 25 minutes in the morning of writing, that's my passion. All of the editing and the playing around drains my energy, but the writing enlivens me every morning. So that's kind of how I found my way for now. But I think it will probably continue to change, right?
That is so wonderful. I mean, honestly, you're newer to the game, but like Ming and I'm hearing that. I'm like, what? You're so organized.
Oh, babe, I am a single mother CEO. I have to be organized.
So organized.
I don't have a choice.
Yeah, well, I think that's amazing. Trust me, like I'm going to share this with other friends who are influencers and they're going to be floored and inspired to get their shit together.
I have to really optimize my time. And I also, for my mental health, I have to make sure I'm not doing anything that doesn't make me feel good, so in a similar way to you. So if I sit there editing and cropping and all this stuff, I'm going to feel like a cranky mama and I'm not going to be as lovely and I'm not going to read as much of a long bedtime story. So I definitely am very careful with my energy. So I've got a little bit of an intense question. If social media was all of a sudden taken away and you had no access to any of the different channels, what would happen and what effects would there be on you both professionally and personally?
I think for me, okay, it's hard to say because it hasn't happened. I'm sure if it actually happens, my answer might be a bit different. I think the main effect it may have on me, which again is actually not a great answer. I mean, I'm not happy with my answer, but maybe it's probably an ego thing for me, like to lose my following and to lose, having an instant shout out to these many people bruise my ego in the long run, I think. But in the short run, in the long run, I go months sometimes not posting anything, just similar to what Hanli says, just because I don't want to and I don't feel like it. I'm not in a good headspace. And Rentadella now, I'm really happy I'm in a space where actually word of mouth is the main way we get people to come. Actually, my life probably might be a lot better without social media. And my husband constantly tells me that. He's like, you don't need it, Ming. He's like, you might be really happy without it. So actually, my life might be a million times better without social media. But short term, I think the consequences would be sad to lose the connection with so many followers as well. I feel like, I love sharing personal things. And sometimes I share a lot, like literally everything I'm thinking and feeling. And I have actually really deep conversations with my followers. So to lose that would be really sad, I think. So yeah, losing that and losing, from just having, an easy shout out when I want to promote something or share something new that I'm doing, that's like the ego point. And then from a connection point, that would, suck. I feel like I have built actual relationships with some of my followers, so that would be sad.
Thanks, Ming. Yeah. What about you, Hanli?
I mean, I know we talked about how toxic social media can be. So, I mean, from that, I would feel like if I didn't have it, I'd be happier. But in truth, I don't think so. I know it's really twisted to have to admit this, but it's just such an integrated part of my life and my branding and everything that I would feel pretty lost, I think, to be honest, for a while without it. It would definitely affect my work, because part of my work is using social media to stay trendy, to stay interesting, to stay relevant, I guess, to remind clients and my followers who I am and why I get to do what I do. So it would definitely affect that. But I think I will get over it. I'm the same as Ming. I think my ego would be too bruised.
For me, I would be fine without Instagram, but LinkedIn is an integral part of my business strategy. And so without LinkedIn, I would find it much, much harder to grow my business. I don't think I would have got a book deal. I don't think I would have been able to launch programs in the US, certainly not so quickly. So from a business perspective and a livelihood perspective, it would have really big effects on me. From a personal perspective, I don't think so much. So I don't do any connecting like personally through either Instagram or LinkedIn. So it's interesting for me. It's like the opposite of what you guys are saying. So I have a very small, tight circle, and usually I'll use WhatsApp or email for those. So it's funny that it's flipped, isn't it? but my career, I don't think would suffer, but I certainly wouldn't have had the very linear and clear path towards building what I'm currently building now. So
It's a really good question, by the way. I'm going to ask a lot of people this.
please use it on your podcast, but credit me.
Yeah, I definitely will, because I even feel like there's so much more to that answer that would reveal about myself and my relationship with being seen, my relationship with, having a platform and like the little dopamine hits we get when people like and agree with you. Like, actually, there is so much that it has entered my world and my psyche with that without it, the absence of all that would reveal some really interesting and terrifying questions I'd probably need therapy for.
But when you have followers, they are validating you and affirming you. They are loving you. So to lose the love and the affirmation and the validation would absolutely have intense effects. And then if you add to that, and I'm not saying that this is you, but some people use social media to fill a void to get that. And so if you don't have it offline, if you don't have those connections and that validation and that affirmation and love offline, and the only place you're getting it is online, and you were to take it away, I think it could cause a huge, huge psychological breakdown. I think about that quite a bit.
That's really interesting. And also, truth be told, when it comes to having a following, there is a certain, I guess, I hate having to use this word, but it's the best. It's the status that comes with it, because you do have power, because you have reach. And so brands want to work with you, and restaurants and places want to invite you because they want you to share them on your following. And so you get a different treatment because you have something that people want, which is reach. And so also losing that would be an interesting experience and something I want to think about.
I'd offer another word rather than status. It's power. So you're able to use the power of your following to receive certain things and to request certain things. Isn't that interesting? So it's a pretty massive thing. But listening to all of our comments on this topic, while we've all expressed how social media can be so harmful and hurt our mental health and take us into this vortex, we still choose it and we still see the benefits of it. And it makes me think of just relationships in general, right? There's good and there's bad. And in the end, if you're choosing it and if you're aware of all of the stuff, the good and the bad, and you're able to set healthy boundaries, then I think it can be something really beautiful.
Yeah, 100%. Completely agree with that.
So, final question to ask both of you before we finish off this incredible conversation. For those that are listening that really do want to step up into the role of influencer, what would be your one piece of advice? And Ming, maybe we can start with you.
Yeah, sure. I think it really does come down to intention. Remembering your intention when you're posting, what you're doing there. I think it just helps you with your mental health, making sure that, you don't get too affected by the things that can happen on social media. It helps you not to get too sucked into the world and like kind of lose your sense of reality. I would definitely say intention, and maybe online therapy course wouldn't hurt as well.
Thank you. Hanli, what about you?
I'd say don't take it too seriously. Yeah, there's so much information that can be so overwhelming on how to grow, what to do, what not to do. And it just takes the fun out of creating. But actually, there's so much good on there. There's so much fun. There's so many wonderful people, personalities, accounts to explore and to learn from. And just find ways to have fun. Like, if you're a funny person and you find a funny reel and you're like, I could do that, try it. Like, have fun with it. Yeah. And because if it's not fun, I don't think it's worth doing. If it's a chore and you're going to put yourself out there, which is already scary, and then it just feels like so much work, then maybe rethink about that. It should be a good time.
So intention and fun, the best advice if you're looking at starting on social media. Thank you both so much for offering up your time and your authenticity and your wisdom and your beauty. I'm really grateful.
Oh, thanks for having us. This has been wonderful. What a wonderful way to end a Thursday evening.
Yeah, thank you so much. We feel so honored to be in your podcast and to also talk about a topic which To be honest, I haven't had the third party for me to think about it with this level of depth and insight. And so I really thank you for that, because it's unearthed a lot of questions that I want to explore deeper. So thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you both. Thank you for your time, your presence, and your receptivity. The better we understand how we have decontextualized, the more we can begin to co-create a kinder and more intelligent world. If this episode stirred you, please like it, leave a comment, or share it. To learn more about my work, visit nataliarachel.com or connect with me via LinkedIn, Instagram, or YouTube. For now, leaving you with intentions for healing and collaborative, innovative regeneration.